Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Huddersfield Planning Subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Sheikh Ullah. I chair this meeting. And just before we go excuse me, into the agenda, there are a number of speakers. Obviously, you've come out in force, so well done. If we can just try and remain polite and courteous at all times, especially towards our officers and towards each other. And we should have a really good meeting. So item number 1 then, membership of the committee. Councillor Sokol.
Councillor Beverly Eddy, so for Councillor Manisha Kaushik, yeah. Thank you.
I've had apologies also from Councillor Andrew Marchington. Sorry, Chair, and Councillor Susan Lee Richards as well.
Thank you. Item number 2 then, minutes of the previous meeting. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Sokol, second by Councillor Safdar. Thank you. Item number 3, declarations of interest and lobbying. Shall we start with Councillor Bellamy first?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Page 9, I've been lobbied in the past, and obviously I was a previous ward councillor for that area, but just procedural advice given.
Thank you. Councillor McGuinn, sorry.
You'll be glad of that, won't you? Nothing to declare, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Khan.
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Councillor Sokol.
None, Chair.
Councillor Homewood.
Nothing to declare, thanks.
Councillor.
Nothing to declare.
Nothing to declare.
Obviously, the Cone Valley High School application is in my ward. I live in the village, and it's a major local entity, so I do know a lot about it. I do speak regularly to people that are involved with it, and 13, 14 years ago, I did coach for this club, but it's a long time back.
Thank you. And there's nothing from me. So item number 4 is admission of the public. We will be discussing everything in this meeting. There is no reason for us to go into a private session. Thank you. Item number 5 then, petitions.
None, Chair.
Item number 6, public question time.
There's no questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we did the minutes, Bernard. Yeah. Okay then, the first application, variation of conditions of hours, Cone Valley High. John.
Thank you, Chair. So my name's John Holmes, and I'm presenting this application for the variation of conditions 4 and 5 of permission 2018-93872, which granted planning permission for an all-weather pitch and which has been constructed and is in use. The application is brought to the Planning Committee at the request of Councillor McCarthy. So this sets out conditions 4 and 5. They restrict the use of the pitch. The current use is 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m, Monday to Saturday. And the proposed hours would be extended such that there would be 9 a.m. to 9 a.m, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m, October to March, and 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays all year. A previous application sought to vary the hours of use and is relevant as a consideration material to this application. The previous application set out hours of 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. on a 7-day basis. This was refused on the 21st of January 22 on the basis of the impacts to neighbouring residential occupiers, and a subsequent appeal to the refusal was dismissed. So these photographs show the site from Gilroyd Lane. And this photo shows the site from the public footpath to the south of the site, and it also shows neighbouring residential occupiers' gardens. This is an aerial view of the site, and it shows the footpath runs to the south of the site along here. So that's the approximate location of the previous photo. A site's within the green belt within the Kirklees local plan. One objection, 5 letters of comment and 126 letters of support have been received, and these are detailed in the committee report. The Council's environmental health team have been consulted and state they do not support the proposed additional hours and consider the proposal does not overcome the previous reasons of refusal. Sport England have been consulted and state they support the application. As set out in the committee report, it's considered a key determining issue in the consideration of this application is the impact upon residential amenity. The points raised by third parties in support of the application relate to the benefits of sport and physical activity, as well as the social benefits such facilities can have, particularly for young participants. In addition, the point is raised that local sports clubs need access to such facilities. Sport England advise that peak times for community use are weekday evenings and weekends, and curtailment of hours in these periods does impact on their value for community sport. During the consideration of the original application for the pitch itself, extensive negotiations took place and sought appropriate fencing, floodlighting and hours of use in terms of mitigation for the impact it would have on the neighbouring residential occupiers. Taking account of the response of environmental health, it's considered that the maximum the use can be considered to be acceptable has been granted by the 29 consent, and the current balance of the impacts upon amenity and benefits to allow opportunities to promote healthy and active lifestyles is considered to be acceptable on the basis of the current hours. Weighing up the planning history, including the Inspectorate's decision upon the previous refusal, and the content of third-party reps and consultee responses, it's concluded that in this case, the proposed additional hours of use would have an unacceptably adverse and harmful impact on the residential amenity of neighbouring occupiers, and refusal is therefore recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Before we go into the speakers list, Councillor Davis, have you got any declarations of interest or lobbying?
No, I apologise for being late, Chair. I have no declarations, no lobbying. I was going to apologise from Councillor Martin as well.
Yeah, noted. Thank you.
And Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, Councillor McGrath? Yeah. Okay.
First speaker, please, is Liz Quinn. Sorry. Sorry, changing the order, haven't we? So, Lee, you're going first. Okay, yeah, if you use that microphone, thank you.
Hi, Lee, welcome to the meeting. 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Lee Richardson and I'm the Sports Facilities Manager across the Trust. For the next couple of minutes, I'd like to put the technicalities to one side, please, and just talk openly here to everyone. I'd like to start off by saying that I believe every child has the opportunity to play sport locally. James Carter of Linthwaite Football Club currently has over 250 children that are not playing sport on the weekend, on Saturdays and Sundays, and they find it increasingly difficult as well to train during the week. And with the weather for the last 4 or 5 weeks, what was difficult previously is now becoming possible. It was agreed that when we built the facility that we would take into consideration a £250,000 sinking fund in order to maintain and develop the facilities. And currently the facility's been sat there for just short of 4 years now, and we're not bringing in any income. And the maintenance costs of alone are thousands of pounds a year. And in order for us to maintain and develop the facility, we have to bring in some kind of revenue. And with the demand, local demand, it's something that is a must. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but one of our local community hubs, Combe Valley Sports Centre, has recently been shut down, which increases the demand for sport and recreation locally. And we have a facility that's just sat there on a weekend during the evening, that's not being used. We believe that we are doing everything we can to work with the local residents. Myself and James Carter, we've knocked on the doors, we've sat on the sofas of the local residents, that back on to Gilroyd Lane, and we've talked about the possibilities and potential of hiring out the facilities on a weekend and evening. And the majority, well, all of them have given a thumbs up. There were a couple of concerns, which is understandable. You know, one of the concerns was that during the summer months, they'd want to sit out in the garden, you know, with a gin and tonic, a Moretti, reading a book, whilst but not having to listen to kids play sport. And that's why we proposed to compromise that during the summer months, we wouldn't hire out the facility. But in the winter months, from October through till March...
30 seconds.
Through till October and March, where there's a huge demand, that's where it's a need and a need for revenue. But I just want to finish by saying that we're just trying to find a solution that's acceptable for everyone, and we believe what we proposed is that solution. So thank you.
Rebecca Taylor. Thank
Hadron, so representing the local junior school. So
she's here for Rebecca.
I'm here for Rebecca. Jane Travis.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, dear Chair, I'm the head teacher of Linthwaite Hadron Church of England Junior and Infant School, and this is a school that's directly next door to the AstroTurf pitches at Combe Valley High School, in which the majority of the club's 4 to 11-year-old football players attend. School cannot state strongly enough the importance of effect that physical exercise has, not just on children's mental health, strength, growth and suppleness, but moreover their emotional and mental health and well-being. Having the club play on the AstroTurf at Combe Valley High School supports this, as it's our local team, local environment, and where they'll all be heading for the next stage of their education once they leave us. Playing there builds children's respect for our local community, neighbours and environment. So the school has 4 points to support why it believes the club should play at Combe Valley High School. So point 1 is the mental health and well-being and community relationships. So when pupils leave us and transition to Combe Valley High School, many are anxious, worried about moving up to a large high school where things are unknown and where they may get lost. Local primary schools and Combe Valley High School spend a lot of time and effort planning and implementing strategies to support transition activities to allay these fears. However, if children already know the high school from playing on the pitches there every Sunday with their football team, then the fears and anxieties are vastly reduced. It's already their space, a known and loved facility which they respect and where they feel safe. This is of great importance to a child and a reason why young footballers should play for their local team in the local environment and area, which is, for us, the pitches at Combe Valley High School. So the second point is about the respect for the community and the environment. If Combe Valley High School pitches are open, operating and being supervised through the football club, local children and young people would have somewhere to keep active, engaged in organised physical activity, and so be busier and less likely to offend. And in the past, there has been quite a significant problem of antisocial behaviour in the local area. So school premises would be far safer and less prone to antisocial behaviour, as a footfall from the club would deter vandalism. Being part of the football club would encourage respect for the environment and people who live and work there. It would build respect for their space, community and environment, and this is another reason why we would support the application. The point 3 is safeguarding, and simply the safeguarding of all our families in Linthwaite is a primary concern, and of which the football club would be a vital component of that. And point 4 is simply the emotional and physical well-being from sport. Thank you.
Liz Quinn.
Good afternoon, Liz.
My name's Natalie Bradbury and I'm here speaking today as a mother of a player.
Sorry. Is Liz Quinn here?
Yes, but can we do this last one as a change?
Yeah, okay.
That's okay, I do apologise, thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie Bradbury. I'm speaking on behalf, I'm speaking as a mother of a player from the club. My son Tommy is 7 years old. He has joined the club in July this year, and since doing so, he has attended trainings every Monday night, and he's played a match every Sunday since the season started in September. Since Tommy joined the club, I've seen a huge change in his development, not only in his football skills, which are coming along quite nicely, but also in his communication with others, his confidence in how he conducts himself, and his consideration for other people. Being part of this club has put him into a situation for the first time where he has had to be aware of other team members around him on the pitch. He has had to learn how to communicate with them effectively and how to adapt his play to position and his position to accommodate others on the team so that they can work together to achieve a strong team and defend well, score goals and ultimately win matches. These are skills which he has learned in just a few short months through the guidance of the coaches at the club, who work hard with the players to develop them, and if this is true for my son, it will be true for all kids that are part of the club. The club's rules are simple. We have fun, we work hard, and we're kind. It's clear to see during both training and matches how children involved adhere to these rules. They are always so supportive of each other, they work hard to get a good result, but they also take each opposing goal and disappointment with good grace. I'm sure you'll agree that these are fantastic traits to be developing in our children at such a young age, and will see them through their lives very well. So, let's address the matter at hand. Linthwaite Football Club uses the Colne Valley High School as its home ground, where the grass pitches there are permitted to be used without restriction, and the 3G pitches are only permitted to be used at certain times. Whilst the weather is good and the evenings are light, the grass pitches can be used at any time without any issue. However, while it gets darker and rainier, it is impossible to use the grass pitches. Therefore, as a club, we rely on the use of the 3G pitches. Therefore, everybody here on this side of the room are here to ask you to request to reconsider extending the hours. An important point to make is that the school playing fields are accessible 24 hours a day, and Colne Valley High School already use floodlighting and have non-organised sports using a grass pitch, which is less than 3 metres away from where the 3G pitch is. So, in reality, granting the extension will probably have very little difference to the quality of life of the residents of the local area. Due to the current restrictions of use of the 3G pitches, we are about to hear from James Carter how 154 out of 278 players have been unable to play. That's 55% of the club being restricted in their growth and development. We've also, we're about to hear that if this carries on, the club will need to downsize, and it might have to close entirely, and this is due to the restriction of the number of players that can play. It will subsequently mean an increase in the subs that are due to be paid, which a lot less families are going to be able to afford to do so. So if this is the case, that the club has to either downsize or close entirely, where does that leave our children who are currently benefiting so beautifully in the same way that my son Tommy is? Thank you for listening.
Just a very quick reminder to all the speakers, if you are speaking, I just think it's really important that you don't name any children or anything like that, okay? Thank you. So, just to confirm what we've got left on the list, we've got Liz Quinn, James Carter, Phil Green, Laura Dernley, Lee Hamilton, and, sorry, Dean Hamilton and Hemingway, and we've got Harry and Matt. And that's it. There's no more changes, is there? No one else? No? No more subs, is there? Right, next, Liz Quinn.
Put my glasses on. Okay. Chair, thank you for allowing the time for me to speak today representing Pride in Linthwaite CIC, a volunteer community group formed in 2017 with the aim to make Linthwaite and Cowsley a better community. I'm one of the directors and was the place standards lead, and as such feel I can represent some of the feelings of the community. Colne Valley sports facilities were built in the late 2000s. Since then, through no fault of the current council, the ability for the local community to use the facilities has been eroded by PFI problems, the school becoming an academy and at a time inflexible security arrangements. Linthwaite Football Club has worked extremely hard to bring football back to the local area in 2021 after having to train out of area for over a decade due to lack of suitable sites. We know as well that Linthwaite will move from being the smallest to the largest village in the Colne Valley because of housing planning that has already been approved by Kirklees without any increase in local facilities or amenities. The council's, Kirklees Council's placed standard consultation, which was conducted and completed by ourselves with the support of the local councillors and Democracy Service in 2021 and completed in 2023, had responses from a village of 5,000 people. Facilities and amenities received the lowest satisfaction score of a measly 3.3 out of 7 and was also the most commented on category. From that, 16% of people asked for more things for young people to do, and 1.5% asked for better access to natural spaces for people with disabilities, with Linthwaite Football Club being one of the 2 clubs in Kirklees to provide that. Moving the training out of the area again, even if we had to go back to the previous training site with data from Auto Express about the most popular cars and admission data from the DVLA, would take an extra 26 hours for average parents, cost an extra £308 per family, and emit an extra 136,000 milligrams of carbon monoxide per car. Consider the impact there of this on multiple children or multiple training sessions, especially during the cost of living crisis we're experiencing. Out of the 154 children that have been identified as that would struggle if training has to come out of the area, even if that resulted in 100 extra cars, that's 30 grand that's moving out of the local community and out of parents' pockets, and 13 million milligrams of carbon monoxide. Kirklees' own health and wellbeing strategy states that the top 4 priorities should be giving people the best start, remaining as well as possible, remaining independent and being shaped by people. 3 priorities are mental wellbeing, connected care and support and healthy places, and one of the key 6 factors is the climate emergency, and I feel that this fits in with your own aims and objectives extremely well. We remain the only village in the Colne Valley without a regular youth club, even after the tragic events at Thornton and Ross, and if they have to move out of the area, there'll be even less for young people to do. So please consider weighing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. James Carter, welcome to the meeting, James. You have 3 minutes.
So my name is James Carter. I'm the secretary of Linthwaite Football Club, but most importantly, I have 2 children that are directly affected by this plan application. For us, this is much more, from the supporters in the room, this is much more than a planning application. This is for the welfare, the mental health and the fitness of children within Colne Valley and the surrounding wards. Throughout this application, we have been supported by local councillors, Sport England, the MP of the Colne Valley, the Mayor of Kirklees, community groups and local residents, as many of them you can see are in the room. We've had 121 supporting comments from this application. Until 2021, Linthwaite Football Club hadn't played in Linthwaite for well over a decade. We brought that back to Linthwaite. Since this time, we've spent thousands of pounds, which have been raised from voluntary funds, to try to improve the pitches at Colne Valley High School. But unfortunately, 2 years down the line, they're still unplayable within the winter months. So now, into 2023, after serving the community for almost 40 years, we are a 3-star FA accredited club. So that means we have to follow strict guidelines provided to us by West Riding County FA. From 10 teams in 2021, we now have 22 teams, 15 mixed teams, 4 girls teams, 1 junior and adult pan disability team. We have 270 players from the Colne Valley ward, or across the Colne Valley ward, Holme Valley South, Holme Valley North, Crossland Moor and Everton, Golka, Lindley, Greenhead, Newsham and Almonbury ward. Out of the 278 players, 154 players have been affected by not being able to use the 3G pitch at Colne Valley High School. Due to availability with winter training, we have multiple teams unfortunately training on one pitch on an evening, and we also have multiple teams that are having to travel outside of the Colne Valley ward to attend training. There's also been quite a lot of local issues with youths within the area. So as the pitch isn't currently used on a Sunday, youths have been breaking into the school grounds via the local residents' properties. They've been causing damage, gathering in large groups, kicking the balls against the fences, acting in an antisocial manner. This has caused stress and unrest with local residents. This is feedback that I've had from conversations with them. We have worked with the school. We've also had local residents sign a petition agreeing they would fully support the extension of hours if it was used by organised junior sport, which is what we are. And just as a closing thank you, as a closing statement, since the last planning hearing in October, 121 children have missed 3 weeks of football due to not being able to play on the pitches at Combe Valley. If this application isn't granted, I'm not sure where this leaves the club, but this is much more than football. This is about child fitness, mental health, learning life skills, making friends, helping the transition from junior to high school, and helping to reduce crime in the local area, youth crime in the local area. Thank you.
Next speaker, Phil Green. Good afternoon, Phil. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me talk today. I appreciate it.
3 minutes.
I'm here talking on behalf of my boy and I suppose his teammates from Linthwaite Football Club. I asked him this morning about coming to today's meeting. I said, what are we talking about? And he gave me an answer. And it struck me that the best thing about being a 6-year-old is that you don't acknowledge or understand or even sometimes respect barriers. Now, look, whether that be, having to go to bed at a certain time or have to inconveniently wait till the end of December for Christmas, or don't get me started on having to put, shin pads on, otherwise you can't play. There's lots of good reasons sometimes why barriers exist, but they just don't get it. And, having to tell my boy, at least 3 of the last 4 weekends about a waterlogged pitch, to which the response is, well, it's not raining, Dad, is a tough one to explain. I can't really describe in words how positive the experience has been for him over the last however many months it is since he started with this team, in terms of gaining friendships with people from his own school, but also from schools from around Linthwaite. And as somebody who played rugby where I was from when I was 6 and built up friendships and skills that have stayed with me ever since, 40 years later, of which I'm going to see a friend now, a friendship that's 35 years old. It's incalculable how important these teams are for our kids. The reality is we live in a place, as you've seen today with the weather, that we get a lot of it. And my boy's missed out on a lot of football over the last few months, and he's probably going to miss out again this weekend because we've had some snow. Look, I get that it's a really tough job to make decisions in this room, and you oftentimes have to make decisions between what appear to be really good, really good things, and we have to make a decision. But we're all here today to make your job really easy today, because this one should be a real easy one. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Next speaker, Laura Dernley. Good afternoon, Laura. Welcome to the meeting.
Speak, so I may cry. So,
no problem. You cry away.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Dernley, and I'm the parent of 2 children, who both of whom play for Linthwaite Football Club, aged 8 and 10. I'm actually here to represent the parents, but also I'm here as a local resident. Living on Gilroyd Lane at 203 The Rock means that I'm actually less than 5 metres away from the grass pitch, which is actually accessible all year round, 24 hours a day, and is actually used more throughout the year when the weather is dry than the 3G pitch. Myself, my husband and neighbours on all sides who I'm spoken to actually welcome the sounds of the children playing. Sorry, the voices of the children and the adults working together as a team, cheering, clapping, hearing the ball, are welcomed My neighbours want to hear those noises. Sorry. The neighbours are also very concerned about the safeguarding of the children. When I've spoken to them, their main concern of all of this is the safeguarding of the children and the importance of them. I'm over it now, I'm fine. Having a safe place to play, and that they would rather hear the voices and see the lights on than be worrying about the children of Golker, Milnsbridge, Linthwaite and all over, trying to find something to do, which actually, as we know in the past, has led to antisocial behaviour in our community. The lights and sounds actually put children off, put adults off doing things that they should. We've had our car broken into a number of times. The local primary school had awful damage to it. If those lights were on later on in winter, that would stop those things. I think it's obvious that we've got 132 people representing to show how passionately the residents feel about the children in their community being safe, healthy and in body and mind, and how little the noise actually means to them. But finally, from a personal point of view, my own child, I won't say his name, but I will show his picture because I want you to look at him. So this is Edward. He is currently waiting an autism assessment. Edward's been welcomed with open arms into the club, never say no to anybody, and, you know, including these new PAM disability sessions. Edward thrives from routine, he loves his teammates and his coaches, but he struggles on a Saturday evening or Sunday morning after a week of build-up when we're saying to him,
30 seconds.
Your match is off due to bad weather. He becomes distressed and angry, and rightly so, because his autism means he's got a strong sense of justice. And when we walk past the 3G pictures and they're empty, I would like to know who could say to him, actually one person objects to this, so that's why none of your teammates can play today. If this entire case is held on the mental health of one adult, how can we put not just my son, but all the children through this week after week after week? I'll just say my
Thank you, Laura.
I just want you to know that the residents are happy to hear the voices of the children.
The last speaker then, Dean Hemingway. Welcome, Dean. Welcome to the meeting. You have 3 minutes.
Not only am I a parent of one of the players for Linthwaite Football Club, I'm also one of the coaches for the under-10s. This is something I do voluntarily, and on weekends, weeknights, I give up my free time to help the children of Linthwaite and Combe Valley so they can play football, engage with their friends, build social skills, give them support and something to do so they're not on the streets causing upset and just being general nuisances for the local residents and the wider members of the public. The 3G pitch is vital for the children of Combe Valley and Linthwaite Football Club. If we don't have this pitch during the winter months at Combe Valley High, then there's nowhere for the children to play, and it plays on their mental health. When the weather is bad and the grass pitches are frozen over or waterlogged, there's nowhere for them to play. There's been reports of multiple occasions where the youths have broken into Combe Valley High School, gained access to the 3G pitch, damaging property, where they kick the ball repeatedly at the fences, using foul language, being antisocial, causing damage. If Linthwaite Football Club had access to this pitch, the youths would not be breaking in. Linthwaite Football Club would be using the pitch much more frequently and monitoring this. If we were to use the pitch on a weekend, it would be a controlled sporting environment where there would be no foul language, no excess kicking of the balls against the fence, no distress to the neighbours who back onto the pitch. I do this volunteering role while holding down a full-time job as a West Yorkshire police officer. I know only too well what happens when youths haven't got anywhere to focus their energy on sports and other activities because of unavailable resources. I know that there is a rising incidence in Huddersfield and surrounding areas, one of them being Combe Valley, involving knives, machetes and weapons. I have seen firsthand what these weapons can do to members of the public. I also attended Thornton and Ross. Combe Valley High and Huddersfield and feel that the opportunity to give the youths more access and activities to use these facilities would be more beneficial. If planning application is rejected, then we have 154 players and teams that would not be able to play ranging from under 7 to under 14, and our pan disability team, causing them, therefore,
30 seconds.
and their families upset, distress, and affecting their mental health. We also have the local businesses that support and sponsor our teams, and if we're affected by them, we can't give them their opportunity to thrive as local businesses and having their names put all over the place. So I just urge you to vote in our favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Next speaker, Councillor Harry McCarthy. Hiya, Harry.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this application today. And thank you to all the local residents, sports clubs and community groups who have spoken much more eloquently and efficiently than I could do on this application. It's the first time I've referred an application to committee, and I think it demonstrates just how strongly I, my ward colleague Councillor McLaughlin and members of the community feel about this. This application has support from ward councillors, neighbouring ward councillors, the local MP, local community group Pride and Linthwaite, local schools, and over 100 neighbour representations. The application has overwhelming support from the local community. As Liz mentioned just now, one of the main themes that came out of the place and standard engagement listening to Linthwaite and Cowsley was a lack of facilities and amenities in the local area. Most of you will know that currently my ward is in danger of losing Convent Leisure Centre. This was written last night. Sports facilities are precious and matter deeply to our local community's health and well-being. In this case, it's the most precious thing of all, the physical and mental health of our children and young people. Quite simply, we can't afford to lose any more sport provision in the Colne Valley, particularly on the back of 13 years of austerity, so a devastating impact on youth provision, local health services and schools. The National Planning Policy Framework states that planning decisions should be based on robust and up-to-date assessments of open space, sport and recreational facilities and opportunities. Kirklees Council's playing pitch strategy saw significant shortages across the district and in the rural Kirklees area, and there's a particular shortage of artificial grass pitches. The playing pitch strategy specifically recommends flood-lit artificial grass pitches are needed to address the shortfalls in provision. Linthwaite Football Club has explored every single option of pitches locally. However, none of these have proved suitable for the team. Without this extension of hours, simply put, our local community sport club will have to fold a number of teams. Sport England are in support of this application, recognising the severe shortage of playing pitches across Kirklees and the need for this extension of hours to address the shortage. As they pointed out in their consultee response, curtailments on the hours of use can have a significant impact on community sport and will do in this specific circumstance. The peak times for community use are on weekend evenings and weekday evenings and weekends. Curtailment of hours also has an effect on the sustainability of the pitch itself. You've heard from Lee just now explaining how the only realistic way to maintain and keep up the maintenance of the pitch is to establish a sinking fund, and we need the extension of hours in order to get the revenue to do this. Reducing the operating hours will reduce the income needed for this essential maintenance. Discussions with the school itself have confirmed this. The National Policy Planning Framework also states that planning policies should aim to achieve healthy, inclusive and safe spaces which enable and support healthy lifestyles, especially where this would address identified local health and well-being needs. Local schools, community groups and sports clubs can testify to the positive impact this application will have on the mental and physical health of our children and well-being, our children and young people. We have a children's mental health crisis in this country. Before I joined the council, my ward colleagues worked on a project to improve the mental health of children and young people in the Colne Valley, and were shocked but not entirely surprised to find a large amount of demand locally. This application shouldn't be viewed as a trade-off between neighbouring residents' amenity and sports facilities. James has engaged with neighbouring residents, and many of them have signed a petition organised by James and Linthwaite Football Club, and you've heard today from a resident immediately bordering the site what they think. The only representation against this application mentions wanting to enjoy their garden during the summer months. This application would not involve extending hours during the summer months. Sports England have also provided guidance for planning authorities on noise and light pollution in relation to floodlit artificial grass pitches, and this should be taken into account we're making a decision. I would also point out that during the original negotiations with the applicant, planning did suggest an extension of hours combined with a 12-month period of monitoring. This should also be taken into consideration by the committee, as this would allow a way forward. And just to wrap up, I think I can't really add anything else to what people have said today. And a massive thank you for everyone who's turned up to show their support.
Thanks, Harry. And the last speaker, Councillor Matthew McLaughlin. Welcome to the meeting, Matt.
Thank you, Chair.
5 minutes.
Follow that. I'm not envious of myself having to go last because I can't really say better what has already been said by people whose lives are much closer to this issue than mine. But this is the first time we've referred something to a planning committee, and this is the first time I've come to speak at a planning committee. That's how important this is to us as local councillors and to the local community. For me, this is a no-brainer. The job of the committee is to take into consideration a whole range of issues and balance them against each other. And as we've heard tonight, the things in favour of this application are the mental and physical well-being of children, the war against antisocial behaviour in the local area, the schools are in favour, local community groups are in favour, and all of that is balanced against one narrow thing, the amenity of properties nearby, of which there are only 5, and those that have been engaged with are actually supportive of this application. There is one letter of complaint against 130 odd in favour. This isn't a balancing act. This is an obvious choice, in my opinion. I don't understand really why the officers have been so narrow in their recommendation. I really don't. The amenity of the local residents is incredibly important, but as you've heard tonight, it's already being negatively affected by the antisocial behaviour that an empty pitch at night in winter attracts. I've lost count of the number of times we've had complaints from residents about the fence being cut into and litter and glass being strewn upon that pitch. I've lost count of the number of times poor James, bless him, has gone up himself to fix the fence and clean the pitch because it's needed by the school, and he's an incredibly kind and handy person, right? So this isn't a question about the benefit of the community versus the amenity of the properties. The amenity of those properties is already being negatively affected considerably. And as we've heard from people, again, who know far better than I, if that pitch was being used by a community in those winter hours, then the antisocial behaviour would go away for 2 reasons. One, because it wouldn't, the pitch is guarded and lit and it's full of people who are doing good for the community, but also because the club will stay the size it is or grow and hopefully bring on board as many of those young people who are struggling with what to do with themselves of an evening as possible. We all know that community sport is an incredibly powerful way of improving the lives and the behaviours and the prospects of young people. And I just want everybody to take that into consideration. I don't know what else to say really, except that this is so important. It's so important. And we really don't know what we're going to do if we don't get it. The club will be significantly affected. And we may well lose the pitch itself. I'm not sure that's been mentioned yet. 3G pitches are expensive. They require a lot of maintenance, thousands of pounds of it over many years on a regular basis. And if the pitch can't pay for itself, and we know how cash-strapped schools are, then we may well lose the pitch. And as you've read in the papers and in some of our contributions, Kirklees' own assessment of sports facilities in the borough said that there is a significant shortage of all kinds of pitches, especially 3G pitches. So we can't afford to lose this asset to the community. It's not just an asset to Linthwaite, it's not just an asset to the Colne Valley, it's an asset to the whole of Kirklees because there's a severe shortage of them, but it needs to pay for itself. And the only way to do that is by having hours in season, in the winter, extended for when children are free to actually play. That's the key thing. There's only a certain amount of time in the week available to children and parents, and that evening time between sort of 6 and 9 o'clock is the time. I speak as a scout leader, that's when all our meetings are as well. So please, please listen to these people, listen to the voice of the local councillors and approve this application, we beg you. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you everybody for attending today and providing all your contributions and your experiences. I think there's been some really good valid points that's raised. Thank you for taking the time out to come attend today. That's the end of the speakers, so we'll be now hearing from the committee. The first person to speak would be Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, my thoughts on this, we've heard lots of supporters, and quite a lot of them have used the voice of the child, which always gets to me, because I think that is one of the most important things that we should be looking at. And how they want to play the sport, and at present are restricted from doing so, basically, due to grass pitch just not being suitable. And believe me, the weather does get bad up there. I know, I actually went to that school. From papers, and I've gone through them a few times, it looks like there has only been one objection regarding noise. So that, you know, there's a lot of supporters and one objection just don't add up to me. You know, so, and I'm aware that Linthwaite's had a lot of serious issues, especially with antisocial behaviour, and as Thornton and Ross has been mentioned, I were about that time. But I'm also aware of the great work that Pride in Linthwaite have done, and Linthwaite Football Club. I mean, they've done some fantastic work. And it is basically to steer children away from crime and provide them something to do. As it's been said, you know, but the grass pitch is available 24 hours a day, basically, but obviously it's not suitable. So when it comes to a change in hours, I don't really understand why it would cause any further harm, due to the fact that, as we've said, the grass pitch is available 24 hours. So by the time I've listened to everything that's been said, gone through the papers, the floodlights, as far as I'm aware, face in, and they're there anyway, so I don't see how that would make any difference. So I'm left with only believing that the extension of hours is only going to make improvements. And it's only going to help with giving youngsters more focus, helping them with their mental health and well-being, giving them something to do as well. So, to be honest, I can't find a reason to agree with the officer on objecting this. So I'm going to just say I'm happy to propose that we accept it.
Are you moving that formally?
I'll move it, yeah.
Thank you.
Move.
I didn't see him.
Thank you, Chair. We have seen here and we have heard from the local community how they strongly feel about this pitch at Corn Valley High School. Chair, over the year, I have heard and I've seen there are so many sports facility open or inside the building have been closed due to the financial situation. And here we are facing same. If we don't listen to our resident and the local ward councillor as well. I have seen over the many years, I've been sitting on the planning committee, I approved some application about the extension of hour, because the extension of hour is always get benefit to the community, because local community, especially young people who might be working, they have no time from 8 o'clock to 5 or 6 o'clock, they need some later facilities, yeah? So that's why this application is proposing. we have heard from the speaker here how the local primary school and other clubs are using this pitch. Yeah, if they don't approve this extension of hours, I think they don't get any facility to go anywhere. And the young people will be out on the streets, which is causing antisocial behavior, which is not right for. Chair, we have got the support from the local MP, we got the support from the local ward councillors and the local community. I've never seen such a strong feeling among the local community and coming to this committee room to speak. So I know that our council officer, they have worked according to their guidelines. What we as a committee member, we have to listen to the community. We have to see how the local community will get benefit out of this extension of hours. So, Chair, I'm happy to second the, I think Councillor Bellamy have moved it. I'm happy to second the proposal to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for everyone for coming. I mean, I agree with the Labour councillor. It's not something I'd usually do when it seems like a no-brainer. Also, there was a couple of sort of misinformation in there. It sounds like the Colne Valley Leisure Centre is staying open, so it's not closing. So just put that in there. Not that it changes my view on it at all. But one thing that sort of concerns me is it says the public and local response. The council are currently undertaking legal statutory publicity requirements. It sounds like you did it twice because there was an amendment to it. But the letter of objection was only from the first round of publicity. So I imagine you've sent letters out. The council has sent letters out twice. They've advertised it twice. They've put it on lampposts and newspapers twice. And yet there's only one complaint to the first public consultation, if you like. It's not a consultation. But in the sort of recommendation for not doing it is solely on the neighbours. It says here is a recommended the application be refused on the basis it would lead to detrimental impact to neighbouring occupiers. Who decides that? I would imagine the people who live there decide that it's detrimental to them. And as we've heard, I think it was from Laura who lives there, that actually improves her quality of life, hearing when she said it emotionally, I believe, that it was the sound of laughter and kids playing improved it. So is it the council's responsibility to make the decision for the residents that it is going to be detrimental, even if they believe it's not? Or would the officer agree that actually, now we've heard and we've offered everyone the chance to speak who lives locally, that actually it's an improvement to their life? And on that basis, is there a chance of re-looking at the recommendation, saying, well, actually, I got this one wrong? Because quite simply, everyone here seems in agreement. We've given everyone the opportunity to speak. We've had 1 against 124, according to this document, and yet we are recommended to go against everything we've heard, everything we've seen, and everything that someone says. So I will be backing this.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. John, do you want to come in now, or should we take a few more comments? Yep.
It's through you, Chair. I take the point that you've made there. Ultimately, whilst that may be the situation for some people at the moment, things change in the future. Plus, there's also the fact that what's been sought is an extension to the hours of the use. The use can't be controlled to a single user. It could be anyone who's using that pitch. It could be a bunch of 40-year-olds who aren't very good at football anymore who decide to shout things loudly. So we have to consider all those. We have to consider all those possibilities when we're making a recommendation. But I understand the point that you make, but that's the reasoning behind the officer recommendation that's in front of you.
Next speaker, Bernard. Councillor McGuinn.
Hi, nice to see Councillor Sokol rebelling against the council officers for once. I've been sat on this committee for 8 years, and I think in a similar situations, we look at objective evidence. And is there any evidence from noise monitoring that there is a nuisance being caused here? Because I remember one particular, I'm going back to, in my constituency of Almonbury, we had a particular issue about a mini golf course, and the neighbours, a lot of neighbours objected, and they brought in noise monitoring. And that's an objective measure of whether it's causing a nuisance. But at the moment we've got, is it just an opinion of the environmental officer that it would cause a nuisance? So one compromise you could have is, could you do it, operate it on a temporary basis, say a year, because now we're in the winter months, it's going to be busy, and then it's in the summer, they're not going to operate. They said they're not going to operate the lengthy hours. So one compromise could be you could monitor the noise and give it a year and see what happens and see if there's any. Then you would have an objective reason to stop the development if it was causing nuisance. But at the moment, there's no objective evidence to say it is. So that's what I would propose. It's a counter proposal, I know. I'm just looking for a way around a compromise. If it's I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Could we have it on a year's basis and monitor the noise?
Thank you, Councillor McGuinn. Next, Councillor Beverley Addy.
All the points have been made, I would say, in a way. I have to point out that this is a very different club to the club that I coached at 13, 14 years ago. If I hadn't been so thick-skinned, I'd left a long time before I started. I wanted my son's team to carry on. I can't name the isms that came at me in that state. James has turned this club around, and you can hear he's got hundreds of children, thriving female section. Wish I'd managed to carry on coaching. I'd love to be working with them. It's got a disability team, pan-disability team, so he's making it accessible to everyone. He's looking to the future, maybe wheelchair, football, and bringing in more people. It really is a true picture of community cohesion and health and well-being, fighting antisocial behaviour. And there are problems in that area with antisocial behaviour when the pitch isn't occupied. The lack of alternative is evident, and they'd have to go out of the area. They were out of the area before. It's much nicer to have them all in one place. It really builds the excellence of a club. And the other pitches do fall foul of our Valley's big problem with waterlogging. But these hours are much reduced from the original. The original was much bigger. They really have taken on board the concerns raised, the environmental health concerns. And of course, one complaint will bring environmental health officers down there to check. So if it goes ahead, the minute anybody wants to complain, that will be checked out, that will be monitored, and, you know, that would then bring sanctions. I don't think, because the residents who live there are not complaining now till 6:30, they know the lights, they know the sounds, and it's not bringing complaints unless they, officers can tell me different. It's not bringing complaints now. The complaints come when the pitches are closed and dark and Joe Bloggs climbs in and kicks his football against the fence all the time. Out of boredom. I mean, it's antisocial behaviour, but it's a lack of something to do. And this club really has tied down a lot of young people. Football does attract the young people where other youth services don't always get on board. The young lads particularly, but even young lasses who don't want to engage with organised things. Football does attract that. So the key reason for refusal is simply that it'll bother the residents. But we're not seeing that up to 6:30. We've heard how the local residents are in support of it. And should it bother anybody, they'll just go through the normal channels and we can have monitoring, and either we can have a sanction or you can lift the hours again. That's what happens elsewhere if there's a problem with environmental issues. So I really don't. I don't see. I see the benefits just so outweigh any potential negatives. It's only potential negatives. Nobody's actually said there are any complaints about disruption for the local residents. And half the hours now.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I think obviously nobody's disputing the benefits of the facility, what the team's doing, the benefits for young people and children. I think that's all really clear. I would just say I appreciate the points that have been made about the volume of representations for and against, and obviously that is a consideration, but I think we do have to be careful to look at, as Councillor McGuinn said, the evidence, not just the volumes of people who commented one way or the other. We need to look at it objectively. But having said that, I am broadly in agreement with what my colleagues are saying, and there's a couple of things in there on the environmental stuff, which I guess it is the amenity impact and the environmental health assessment, which is the key bit here, that I'm just not 100% clear on. So one is obviously there's been a discussion about the existing grass pitch, which can be used at all times. Now, I appreciate that it might not be used that much in winter because of the waterlog issues and stuff like that. But I'm just wondering, has that been taken into consideration in the environmental assessment? Because obviously, if that's being used already, what is the difference between the two proposals in terms of the 3G pitch and the use of a grass pitch? And is that considered? The second thing, in terms of the changes that have been proposed to the hours since it was last deferred, in the report it sort of suggests that the environmental officer's view is, well, you can't just substitute times at certain times of the year for other times of the year. And I'm a bit confused about what they mean by that in terms of what is the objection from the environmental health. Is it that any noise at any time is an issue? Is it the length of time, i.e. it being all day? Is it the time of year? Because to me that does seem relevant. If residents are concerned about being outdoors when the noise is happening, that does seem relevant. And in terms of that environmental sort of noise assessment, as you were sort of saying, Councillor McGuinn, what does that take into account? So, for example, if I'm sat in my house with my windows shut, how much impact does that actually have on me in terms of noise? What are we measuring here? Are we measuring noise outdoors, indoors, both? And what is the impact? It just seems to me that from what's in the actual report, and maybe it's in the more detailed assessment, but just the environmental impact just seems a little bit thin to me in terms of the impact it would have. But yeah, I would welcome some further clarification on that.
Thank you, Councillor Homewood. So clarification on the grass pitch versus the 3G pitch, and then the hours that James has raised as well.
So in terms of the grass pitch, well, for one point, it's further away than the current AGP or all-weather pitch. So it's further away from the neighbouring residents than the current AGP pitch. And the other point is, well, when the original permission was given for the all-weather pitch, the hours were assessed as part of a noise assessment, which was, I think, updated twice as part of the original permission. And the overall conclusions within that was that a restricted hours of use would mitigate the noise impact of the pitch, and that was accepted at that time as a condition of approval, and that's the reason there are these restrictive hours conditions on there. So there was an exercise undertaken going back to when the pitch was originally granted planning permission, and that sort of informed the response from a colleague in environmental health in terms of their response to these applications for extending the hours of use.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Chair. Just in response to Councillor McGrath's question in regards to the assessment, the assessment of nuisance is subjective. It's not objective. There's no limit of noise above which it becomes a nuisance. So in determining whether any noise from any premises is a statutory nuisance, it's for officers to go out there to assess and use professional judgment. In regards to Councillor Homewood's question about the assessment itself, nuisance is 24 hours. It can be any time, any day. And it doesn't matter if it's the summer or the winter. The assessment of nuisance relates to premises, and premises includes gardens. And I think just generally, the laws are applied equally, so it's not so much the individual household that may or may not complain. We would just assess it and say, the average person living here at this address, if any noise from the 3G pitch is heard, would that constitute a nuisance to the average person? So we wouldn't take into account particularly young family, elderly people, people that are unwell, and so on and so forth. So it's subjective in that sense, and we have to apply it equally. So whilst in this particular case, and we do acknowledge the strength of support from the community and the user groups, our assessment and our comments were based purely on the submitted information at that time, which, as John has referred to, was the noise impact assessment. Mitigation measures were put in place with regards to the acoustic fence, and in determining the variation, and it was supported by the appeal decision, we feel there will be a loss of amenity should that variation be granted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Addy.
Just thinking about the original proposal to extend the hours and the current one, obviously it has been taken on board that there were concerns about the environmental impact of sound and light on the neighbours, and you know, the community does talk to each other in Linthwaite, and I think the concerns particularly about being sat there in summer in your garden, having a barbecue, having your own little kids out or whatever, and having this loud noise, you know, albeit pleasant and fun, of, you know, football training going on. And that is why they came back with the mitigation for the football. You know, this is for the football. Some would have been something else probably, but the mitigation of keeping the football, because that would mean the club couldn't continue, they need to fund the pitch. But doing it in winter, when you've got that noise, but everybody's sat inside with their windows closed. Not everybody, but most people are. So therefore, the noise of training, the fun noise of training, would only be dull outside noise. And that's why they came back with the mitigated hours and took on board the concerns, I believe.
Yeah, just to come back on that, so thanks for explaining. I think there's just two other things I'd just ask. So in terms of when you do that assessment then, you obviously, sounds like you would visit the site. Do you go in, do you sit in someone's house and see what the sound is like? Is that how you assess it? And then the second thing that I just want to clarify is, because maybe I'm not getting the point here, but so I appreciate that you're looking at the changes, not what's there now, but presumably the noise impact is the same at any time of day in terms of the usage, if it's the same type of usage. So are you saying that if this was an application, if this 3G pitch had just been built and the application came through for planning permission or whatever today, that the advice from Environment Health would be the same? It has an impact on amenity, because obviously we're balancing extended opening, extended usage times, and I'm just trying to understand how you've figured that in. So are you saying the issue is the number of additional hours? I can't quite work out what the issue is, whether it's the number of hours, whether it's the noise altogether. So you're saying effectively if this was a new application, if this had just been built today, you would be objecting on the grounds of Environment Health?
Thank you, Chair. In response to how we assess nuisance, well, we have to be careful here because we're talking about amenity and nuisance. Nuisance is a higher standard. So I think if we remove the nuisance aspect of it and just deal with amenity as we do with planning, in terms of the assessment, yes, it is simply we put ourselves in the complainant's shoes, taking into account the time of day, what would the typical person be doing at that time of day. If it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll be at home doing your business or whatever. If there's any noise coming in, how intrusive is it? And as I said to you, gardens constitute premises. Whilst we do appreciate in the winter months it's less likely you're going to be outside, nonetheless you're still entitled to be outside to do whatever it is that you choose to do. Regards to the second question, if this was a new application, then our decision is based purely on submitted information and then professional judgment. The initial application, there was a noise impact assessment submitted. Mitigation measures were proposed by the acoustic consultant on behalf of the applicant. and the acoustic fence has gone up. That monitoring only considered the times at that were proposed at that time. The variation now is taken into account evenings and Sundays. And we all know noise levels will fall in the evenings, and particularly on Sundays. It's the most sensitive time of the week. And that's where we have concerns about loss of amenity. So whilst, yes, there are organised groups, and we don't dispute that, how well run they are, and so on and so forth, we acknowledge all of that. If it's an issue because it's still the same level of noise, it's still the same level of participation of the children, adults playing football, you're more likely to hear it or more likely to notice it in the later part of the evening or on the Sundays. And that's the concern we have. Again, like I say, it's just based on submitted information and professional judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just summarise, Councillor Bellamy, you moved the recommendation. Some of the key points that I've got from that is you gave considerable weight to the improvement to the mental health and well-being of impact on children, especially, that you mentioned there. And Councillor Sokol, in seconding the application, also mentioned that if this facility wasn't here, some of the users, for example, may be young people that would be out on the street, so that if they don't have the extended hours, so there might be antisocial behaviour or other activities such as that. So officers carefully considered these matters, and in paragraph 1025 of the officers' report, this is where officers concluded that where we thought the balance lay at that time was that the potential harm to residential amenity outweighed the benefits. But from what members were saying there in moving it, it's the positive impact of the additional use of the site in relation to health and well-being, as well as some of the other matters have made, outweighs in terms of members the potential impact on residential amenity, taking into account the reduction of hours that have been put forward more recently from the 18th of October. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, so... Andrea.
So if we move to the vote then, members, to delegate the application to officers to approve the application. Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Safdar.
For.
Councillor Lawson. For. Councillor Addy.
For.
Councillor McGrath.
For.
Councillor Davies. For. Councillor Khan.
For.
Councillor McGuinn. Councillor Bellamy.
For.
And Councillor Uller.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so the application is approved.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.